Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news as Erik ten Hag faces leak frustration. And no, he doesn't have a urinary tract infection. This is to do with leaks from within the club again. We'll also be talking about Onana. Onana under fire, another ex-player talking about Onana, his bad start to his Manchester United career. Can he turn it around? We'll talk about that as well. We've also got a little bit around and more unhappiness within the club. People threatening to quit the club and actively looking to leave the club. We've also got a little bit about the Glazers and why they're not selling. I've got a really niche section that I never get to do, and I'm going to try it out on you tonight a little bit later. It's called Stat Attack. And it's basically about Man United and how they are doing as a team compared to other teams this season so far in numerous areas such as ball retention, shots, pressing, etc., and where they rank against other clubs. I found it really interesting. I think you will as well. We'll put that in later. And also, if we have time, we're gonna do Ask Me Anything. I used to do a lot of Q&As. I don't really get a chance to do them on Twitter anymore, so I thought, why not try that? And also, we'll talk a little bit about Wayne Rooney, who's just got a job down the road from me at Birmingham City. What does that mean for Manchester United? It means quite a lot. There are already players being lined up to go and loan there. So good to talk about that as well if we get time. But let's get into it. Let's talk about, well, I spoke about this morning, didn't we? We were talking about the Harry Maguire story and the Jadon Sancho story, and it came out from TalkSport and Alan Brazil that they had a really good source that had been told that the players weren't having Ten Hag. You know, they were frustrated with the way he treated Jadon Sancho and the way he treated Cristiano Ronaldo, and they just weren't having it. Well, that was this morning. United haven't officially put a line out because I don't think they actually want to acknowledge it officially. But from good sources within the club, this is a frustration. It is it's not unexpected, but it is a frustration. They beat Brentford on Saturday. The way the players reacted to scoring that winner from Scott McTominay showed the world, the fans and everybody else just how engaged these fans are in going to the last minute and getting a result. And of course they acknowledge as a football club that they're nowhere near where they need to be. But to have these stories coming out that the players don't fancy Ten Hag and they don't want to work for Ten Hag, they find really frustrating because we're not coming off a loss. We're coming off a win. And we're coming off a time where Ten Hag is absolutely adamant that that win, even though it wasn't in the design he wanted it, it was a blood, guts and thunder win. And the positive that Ten Hag took from that was that it was a message to the fans that the players are with him and are with the club. So it's very frustrating when only a few days later in an international break where they don't have any games to bounce back, there are stories coming out that there are players that don't fancy Ten Hag as a manager. They don't want him to do well. It's a frustration, and it's a frustration for Erik ten Hag. And whilst it's not one that the club are going to acknowledge publicly, it is one that just undermines what they're trying to do at a time of vulnerability. Andy Wetherall, thank you for gifting a membership there. And Mark, do you think you could read out the starting lineup in the previews instead of just putting it on the screen because most of the team I just listened, says J. Dot. Well, I can do, but we're not doing a preview for 2 weeks, you prat. But I can do it, yeah. I thought I always did that anyway. But anyway, look, let's get into the real world. Let's talk now. Look, I think that what I would say is that we had Rob Dawson on this afternoon. Beth interviewed him. He hadn't really heard anything about leaks. We had, we've done our own little bit of digging. They've not really heard anything. So the bottom line is, for that story this morning, as it stands now, has not been substantiated or followed up by anybody with any concrete proof. And what is it? What is it? Is it really worth taking any time on? All I would say is, I just think it's another tactic to try and destabilise a manager who's under pressure. And as I've said for many weeks, there is, I don't know whether this is a record, but there is no manager in the Premier League that has been sacked. J. Dot, don't worry for asking. It's absolutely fine. If you get called a prat, it's a term of affection. Don't worry about it. Can we all give J. Dot some love? He's got a sad face in the chat now. I don't want him to feel sad. We're just having a bit of banter. I can read the preview out, but we're not doing one for 2 weeks. But going back to what I was saying about Ten Hag, no manager has been sacked in the Premier League yet. And I don't think that's usual to get to the second international break and not have a sacking. And we won't have a sacking in this international break. So there hasn't been a sacking. And you know what? That's a little bit like vultures not getting a carcass to eat on. And that's a little bit what the media are like. They need and are used to having a bit of a manager merry-go-round in the first couple of months of a season, and they haven't got one, and they're hungry for one. So they're looking at the ones, and the plumpiest, juiciest meat is the biggest manager, the bigger club. And they're looking at the big clubs and they're going, well, look, Pep's never going anywhere. De Zerbi's not going to go anywhere. Arteta's not going anywhere. Klopp's not going anywhere. Eddie Howe's not going anywhere. Emery's not going anywhere. Ange has only just got there. Poch has only just got there. Oh, Ten Hag, not had a good start to the season. I'd like to sack managers, and he is just prime meat at the moment. And I think that there are obviously going to be active stories to try and derail him. But the question always has to be, who are the players that don't want to work for Ten Hag? Who are the players that are not happy with Ten Hag? Because I can go through that team and I'll do it for you now. It's international break. Onana, definitely not. Wan-Bissaka, definitely not. Delot, definitely not. Maguire, I don't think it's Maguire. Lindelof, I don't think it's Maguire. Varane, I don't think it's Varane. Martinez, definitely not. Luke Shaw, I don't think it's Luke Shaw. Malacia, definitely not. I'm saying definitely not to the players that have either massively been given a chance by Ten Hag or have been bought by Ten Hag. Casemiro, definitely not. Just don't think it's in his nature to do it either. McTominay, I don't actually think McTominay would either. And he might have reason to, but I don't think he would. Donny van der Beek, again, he might have reason to, but I don't think he's the sort of person to do it. Bruno Fernandes, definitely not. Eriksen, definitely not. Mason Mount, he's only just bought him, definitely not. Amrabat, definitely not. Rashford, I mean, people would like it to be Rashford, but I'd say, why would he do it? He's just had a massive contract and his career has been redeemed by Erik ten Hag. So why would he not be indebted to him? Garnacho, definitely not. Martial, don't think he would. Really don't think he would. He's had better opportunities with Solskjaer and Mourinho and not done it. So why would he do it? I don't think it's in his nature. Højlund, definitely not. So Anthony, definitely not. So I don't know who these players are that would be turning on Erik ten Hag. And even if they were, they're clearly not first team players. So I don't see it. And I think sometimes you've got to work your way through. If you'd asked me a few weeks ago, I think some of the people that maybe were looking to be sold, you could have said them. But you look at their professionalism on Saturday, I'm not going to say anything about that. So, yeah, I think I just don't see it. I just don't see it at all. Andy Weatherall, thank you very much. And Zachary, welcome to the Members Club. I appreciate that. So, look, there is a frustration, of course. Oh, shit, I've just completely forgotten. I'm wearing Boohoo Man. And Boohoo Man are sponsoring the show. Let me just do it. I'll do it now. Apologies to Boohoo Man. I enjoy the Boohoo Man bit. I just got really into that. So today's show is brought to you by Boohoo Man. And with the winter nights just around the corner, Boohoo Man is being extra generous by offering the United Stand audience a massive 40% discount when you use the code Goldbridge at checkout. Whether it's five-a-side, relaxing in your living room with your, chill out wear or gym wear or clothing to go out in, Boohoo Man have got you covered. As you know, this is one of my favourites. It's a fleeced line cotton hoodie. I love it. It just keeps me lovely and snug and warm for these, late night streams or early evening streams when the temperature's dropping. 40% off with the code Goldbridge. And as you know, Boohoo Man have been sponsoring us for a long time. Fantastic brand and loads of stuff you can get. They've literally got everything. Coats, underwear, the lot. 40% off with that code. You can really kick yourself out with a lot of stuff. I've got loads of tops that I just use when I'm going on a run or something like that as well. You need a lot of that sort of stuff. But as always, because Boohoo Man are fantastic, they always give us a bit of trivia. And this is our favourite part. So this is what I was looking forward to. I'm not going to look at the name here. I don't look at the name anymore. So I was born on the 9th of March 1990 in Amsterdam. That makes them 33. No. Yeah, 33. I began my professional football career at Ajax. In December 2014, I transferred to Manchester United for 13.8 million. I've got it. During my time at Manchester United, I played in 90 matches and scored 4 goals. With Man United, I won the FA Cup, the League Cup and the Europa League. I'm not only recognised for my club achievements, I've also represented the national team of the Netherlands over 100 times. I came from a footballing family. My dad played over 300 matches for Ajax and also represented the Netherlands. I've also got a name that is associated with your eyes. Of course, it's Daily Blind. Congratulations to everyone who guessed correctly. A big thank you to Boohoo Man for supporting today's show. Don't forget you get a huge 40% off with that code Goldbridge at checkout. So what are you waiting for? Head over there. And well done if you got that one. I got it as well. Daily Blind. There we go. It's not Nanny. So look, well done for getting that. Right, let's move. Let's just stick to let me just say on the Ten Hag thing then. Look, unless we get anything further, I would file it under bullshit because we're all clever enough to deduce whether there'd be 4 or 5 players turning against Ten Hag in the first team, and I can't think of one. So I think you just have to say, well, you know what? We're past all that as a fan base. We can't just take a story now and go, that's true. I think we need to be cleverer than that. Now, I go back to Ralph Rangnick in that January, and there was loads of leaks, and there was loads of outlets talking about it, and I think it was very easy to say that, you know, that there was that clique and there was that clique and they were falling out and all the leaks were coming out. But I don't see that at the moment. I really don't see that. Maybe we'll see it. Maybe it is true, but I don't think it is. I'd rather watch this than the overlap any day of the week, says Nay. Well, let's not get competitive, you know. I think there's a few bad things have been said today, and I don't really understand it from people I've never met before. You know, I really don't understand all that, but you know. We're better than that. Andy Weatherall gifted a membership. You are a legend, mate. Thank you very much. And hi, Mark. I'm loving the 8 p.m. shows this week. Perfect for global viewing. Can you give us a quick word of advice in dealing with stress and chaos in your daily life, says Buster. Can you remind me to talk about that, Buster, towards the end of the show? Because it was Mental Health Day yesterday, or Mental Health Week, and I didn't talk about it, so I would love to talk about that, stress and everything. Rudolph the Red ordered my Christmas jumper, Mark. Get in. Cheers, mate. Hope to see you at the Christmas show. Just been working on a bit of the strategy for the Christmas show, actually, and we're going to definitely do what we did in Manchester last time. I want to get about 5 or 6 people up on stage from the audience with prizes to win in a bit of a Christmas quiz. So Team Goldbridge and Team Ricky, I think, is what we're going to do. And yeah, looking forward to that. So thank you for ordering the Christmas jumper. Get them while you can. Links in the live chat for the Christmas show. Right, I want to talk about Onana next. You mentioned the overlap there. So Roy Keane was talking on the overlap with Gary Neville, talking about Onana, and he said he's had a very bad start. Being a goalkeeper at Man United is a difficult position. You need a big personality after making mistakes. He's already made 6 or 7 big mistakes. It's not a very good start. And then he passed a joke off about David De Gea, saying they should have kept him. A huge mistake to let him go. Bring him back. He's free. And then he said no, he had to go. I mean, look, I love Roy Keane. Love Roy Keane. I mean, he's a legend of the football club. But guess what? I don't have to respect every opinion he makes, and I don't think he shits gold. I just don't. It's a life lesson. The biggest mistake you can make in life is just because you like and admire somebody is follow their opinion. They still fart and they still stink. And everybody has weaknesses and everybody has strengths. Everybody has bitterness, everybody has jealousy in some state or form, and everybody, you know, holds a grudge or has some sort of agenda. And I think ex-players do it more than most of us because they can't play football anymore. And it must be a really hard thing to have been successful and good at football and then know that you're never going to play again. And then you look at players now who you think you were better than you were better than them, and they earn more money than you, and they get more, you know, praise than you. It must be very difficult for a lot of them. I find that I must admit, like, I find that I like Roy Keane. I think a lot of what he says is good, but I think sometimes I don't agree with him. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with joking about David De Gea. You know, maybe they should bring him back. No, I'm only joking. He needed to go. I don't agree with that. I'd love to sit down with Roy Keane and have a chat and him tell me why David De Gea needed to go. And the reason I say that is because he needed to go. Okay, he needed to go. 17 clean sheets last season. The best defence in the Premier League. Well, yeah, but they got stuffed by Liverpool. Was it the best defence in the league with 17 clean sheets? Yes. Was it organised? Yes. Did we finish third in the league? Yes. Did we win a trophy? Yes. Regardless of whether you want to praise De Gea or blame De Gea, he was still part of an organised defence that did very well last year. This year, our defence is chaotic. Yes, there are injuries, but also you've got to say the keeper's made mistakes as well. So how can you sit there and say, you know, it was a mistake to let De Gea go, he had to go, when the defence was well organised? And actually, the only reason to bring Onana in was to be a ball-playing goalkeeper. Roy Keane wanted Simeone to be our next manager after Solskjaer. Simeone is a part of the bus defensive coach. So Since when has Roy Keane wanted Simeone as our manager, but then wants a ball-playing goalkeeper? I never understood what Roy Keane's issue was with David De Gea, because I don't think he ever articulated it. I think he made it very clear he wanted him to go, but I think he wanted him to go because he didn't think he was a very good goalkeeper. I never heard Roy Keane talking about, well, Man United need an expressive goalkeeper that can play a high line and play out from the back. So I personally think Roy Keane's problem with De Gea was nothing to do with ball playing, and I just don't think he actually rated him as a goalkeeper, which to me isn't what my opinion is. I think that De Gea was replaced for a ball-playing goalkeeper by Ten Hag, and I think Ten Hag respected him as a shot stopper, and he's a better shot stopper than Onana. So, that's my opinion on that. But, look, where he is right is that, and Roy Keane lived it at Manchester United when Schmeichel left, is that it's very hard to be a goalkeeper at Man United, and I wish people had realised that when they were, going on about Costa and Onana and, all these goalkeepers that were going to come in and work at Man United straight away. And that was never going to happen. It was never going to happen. Mark, there are rumours that Solskjaer's going to be hired to coach my hometown club. Please help, I'm scared, says Asher. Where do you live? Swindon? Or what's your hometown club? It's all been stressed since we was up for sale, says Lee Willoughby. Thank you very much. And unfortunately, if the leaks are happening, it's more than likely to be Jadon Sancho. He's literally said he wants Ten Hag replaced, says Martin. Yeah, but do you genuinely think that somebody's going to leak to Alan Brazil on Talk Sport that Jadon Sancho says that everybody's annoyed because he's been left out of the team? I mean, that's not a source, is it? I can't imagine that. But going back to the goalkeeper situation, I do agree with Keane. Genius Murphy said Southgate was better than Ten Hag, says Charles. I mean, do we really need to mention that person? I mean, I know he slagged me off on national radio today, but I've never met the guy. And to be honest with you, who is he? Like, I heard of him as a footballer, but as a pundit and as a personality since retirement, who is he? Like, who is he really? I mean, I've had Gary Neville sort of have a pop at me. I mean, from Gary Neville to Murphy, God, it's like drinking a fine wine to piss, isn't it? Really, I don't really want to talk about it because I just don't think it's worth giving him any, attention. He probably did it for a bit of attention, I don't think he's even on Twitter. Scott McTominay, he's Scottish, says Raz. Thank you very much for stating the obvious. But look, what I was talking about there about the goalkeeper, I do agree with Roy Keane, that he's had a bad start, but being a Manchester United goalkeeper is difficult and you have to have a big personality. And the one thing I wanted to say about Onana is that the goal that we conceded against Brentford with the weak wrist was terrible. The goal that we conceded against Bayern Munich, where he let it slip in, was terrible. And I was thinking about goalkeepers that we've had at the club that have, done various levels of bad. And, David De Gea didn't start off fantastically well. And every goalkeeper makes mistakes, including Alisson, who I think is the best goalkeeper in the world. But Onana's mistakes across all the goalkeepers we've had, from Barsnich to Barthez, the mistakes that Onana has made, the goalkeeper he reminds me the most of is Taibi, who we brought in from Italy. Some of the mistakes he's made are horrific. They're really not, and I can see the name Taibi. Lee Willoughby says De Gea had his moments, but best shot stopper out there. So Onana is coming from a really low point, really low. The mistakes he is making are absolutely awful. Concentration mistakes, I call them. I spoke to Ben Foster about this, and he was like, it's as a goalkeeper, it's pure concentration. Like, to make those mistakes, it's just something's going wrong as that ball's coming towards you, and you're just not doing the basics right. It's a concentration. They're howlers, exactly, Wahida. But what I will say is that there's a very big difference between being frustrated with players making a mistake and wanting them out of the team. And I heard somebody today call in on radio mentioning me, saying that Goldbridge goes after Onana. And I'm like, I don't mind being criticised by you because you watch the show. But what I will not accept is prats in our fan base who don't watch the United Stand and, make an opinion on it based on not watching it. If you see a clip of me saying Onana's got wrists like spaghetti, letting that in, that's not a fair judgment of what we talk about on this channel, because I said at the weekend before the game against Brentford that I wouldn't change the goalkeeper. I said when De Gea left and Onana was the goalkeeper that I like Onana and I think he's a really good goalkeeper. In fact, I described him as box office. So, look, Onana deserves criticism because the mistakes he's making are howlers. And it's going to take a big character, like Roy Keane says, to bounce back. But I believe he can do it. And it'll be satisfying when he does. He's got to dig himself out of this hole. You know, he mentally has got to believe and concentrate. Because at the moment, we've got a goalkeeper that's worse than the goalkeeper we had than last season. His distribution is rubbish. He's not playing on the edge of his box. And his shot stopping is rubbish as well. But the great thing is that it's an easy comeback, isn't it? Because he's not doing anything we bought him for at the moment. And I know he can do all three. I know he can pass out like one of the best goalkeepers in the world. I know he can play on the edge of his box like a sweeper keeper. And I know he can make shot stops. But at the moment, he just doesn't look right. So I think the next few weeks for Onana are really key with the big games that we've got. You don't want to be picking the ball out of the net more than twice against Man City in a couple of weeks. And we don't want to be picking the ball out of the net at all against Copenhagen in that back-to-back. Our run of games between this international break and the next international break are key to our season. We'll either still be in the Champions League and still within a chance of getting in the top six, or we won't at all. And I absolutely do not believe that Biinda should get a running goal. Because the minute Ten Hag starts doing that, the minute, those leaks and rumours become a problem in the press. Because as much as they'll try and run stories that Onana should be dropped, it's like a double-edged sword, isn't it? Onana needs to be dropped, but the minute he drops Onana, they'll go £50 million mistake by the manager. Look at that. So they'll write stories about Onana definitely needs to be dropped. He's causing goals, la. But the minute Ten Hag drops him, they'll be like, oh, £50 million mistake. De Gea went for nothing. He spent £50 million on his replacement and he's having to drop him already. What a prat he is. So Ten Hag has to stick with his player. He has to stick with Onana because otherwise you're just going to knock his confidence even more. Giroud has saved more goals than Onana this season, Varun. But that's just a joke. That's just comedy. That's just banter. We can all laugh at it, but it doesn't mean anything. Giroud's not a better goalkeeper than me, let alone Onana. It's a nonsense. And before anybody says, I've got footage of me in goal that's coming out very soon. It's a series. You'll see. But I can't believe it, says St. Mary's. Thanks to everyone who was watching Goldbridge Ball this afternoon on my career mode, by the way. All I'd say is the redemption arc is beginning. Look, I think with Onana, you need to keep it in mind that people talking about dropping him, what's the solution? I always believe if you're going to drop a player, let's give 3 examples of players that people think should be dropped. Onana, Rashford, and let's say Mason Mount as well. Could have been Bruno. You drop Rashford, he's on 350 grand a week and he's your star player. He's not being dropped forever. He's being dropped to kick him up the arse, isn't he? And that might work because he's an outfield player. You can drop him for one game and you can bring him on after an hour. Mason Mount, you drop him, you've spent £55 million on him and not a lot of people really understood why you bought him. So you might drop him. He's also been injured at the start of the season. I don't think Ten Hag can drop Mason Mount. I think he's got to play him a bit like Anthony because he bought him and a lot of people didn't really understand why. So he's got to play Mason Mount. You could drop Rashford as a kick up the arse but bring him back in. But if you drop Onana, you can't sub your goalkeeper after an hour. You drop Onana for Biinda, Onana doesn't play that game. And if we win and you don't, the keeper plays well, you can't bring Onana back for the next game. Dropping a goalkeeper is a really dangerous thing to do, is what I'm saying. Anyway, look, I'm just going to jump into this section now. Do I jump into this section now? Yes, I'm going to jump into this section now because I think you might like it. So this is going to be called Stat Attack. And this is just basically, I don't know how this is going to go, but this is comparing Ten Hag, Man United, to everyone else in the league as a team across some key stats after 8 games. I don't know where United are going to rank on these. I don't know. I've not looked at it. I looked at one thing, and that was Liverpool expected goals. Liverpool are top of the league for expected goals in the Premier League. They're not top of the league for points, but they are in expected goals. So I wanted to look at this from a United point of view because I think it will give us an indication of where United are in relation to crosses into the box, possession, pressing, defending. I'm just going to go through a few, and we will learn about this together. So Manchester United at the moment, where are Manchester United for expected goals? So Liverpool are top for expected goals. They're across the 8 games. They were expected to, from all the chances they've got, the good chances, they were expected to score 18.5 goals, and they've scored 18. Manchester United, we're not in the top 10. We're actually 3, 6, 9, 10. We're 11th. We were expected to score 14 goals. We've scored 9. So that shows us that our XG, or whatever you want to call it, is not as good as it could be. So we're mid-table for expected goals from the big chances that we've had. What about conceded goals? For conceded goals, we're again around mid-table. So yeah, I don't really understand what that stat's all about. Well, I suppose I do. Points, we don't want to do that. Possession. What about possession? What's our average possession across the season, and what position are we in? So 3, 6, okay. So Man City are top of the league with possession, average possession across 8 games, 65%. Second place, Chelsea, 62%. Third place, Spurs, 61%. We're actually in 8th place with 52% possession average across 8 games, which is virtually the same as Liverpool. So it's not terrible, better than Aston Villa. So 52%. I mean, Ten Hag wants that a lot higher, but 52% is what we're at. What about shots on target, shots this season? Total shots. Now, unsurprisingly or surprisingly, Spurs are number 1 in the league for shots. 144 shots in 8 games. Second are Brighton. Third are Everton. Fuck knows how. But Man United are 4th for shots, which I think is quite interesting. But what's our percentage for shots on target? 32%. Which is higher than Liverpool's 28%. So we're not doing too bad for shots. What about crosses into the box, Mark? Can we have the stats on that? Yes, you can. Crosses into the box, Luton are top with 159 set-piece specialists. Chelsea are second. Everton are third. We're 4th this season for shots into the box. Crosses into the box, 15.6 per match. Accuracy, 33%, which would put us top of the league. We've got the best accuracy on crosses than anyone else in the top 5. In fact, Aston Villa and Brentford are the only 2 teams in the league with a better cross accuracy. But the interesting thing is that 81 of our crosses have come from the right-hand side, and only 57 have come from the left-hand side, which shows a bit of an imbalance, doesn't it? I mean, how many goals have we scored from crosses this season? I think that would be interesting. Challenge intensity, I wanted to talk about. So challenge intensity is the number of defensive actions you make per minute of opposition possession. So this, for United, really isn't that great. Tottenham are number 1 for challenge intensity per minute. 6.8 defensive actions per minute of opposition possession. Second are Brighton. This sort of feeds into your ability to press as well. Third are Chelsea. 4th are Bournemouth. 5th are Brentford. 6th are Fulham. 7th are Newcastle. 8th are Liverpool. 9th are Arsenal. 10th are Sheffield United. 11th are Man City. 12th are Everton. 13th are Manchester United. So our challenge intensity is not really that good. You know, the amount of tackles we do per minute of opposition possession isn't actually that good. And again, PPDA they call it. Basically, what it is the amount of touches per minute that the opposition have before you win the ball back. Tottenham, number 1 again, 7.8 touches before they win it back on average. Brighton are second, 8.5. Man United are down in 12th again at 12 touches before we win it back. So look, there's a few interesting things there. That I think the biggest issue that Manchester United have got is there's not enough energy. There's not enough energy in that team. But it's surprising that we're putting a lot of crosses in this season. Last season, we were 3rd from bottom for crosses into the box. This season, we're 4th from top for crosses into the box. So, you know, what that shows me is that there is a complete and utter turnaround on our desire and intent to put a cross into the box. On the flip side of the coin, we're not very good in relation to the press or the intensity in winning the ball back when the opposition have got the ball. And, for a Ten Hag side, that's rather surprising. Mark, have you seen the Paul Merson Mike Dean interview about VAR? Wondering if you have any thoughts on it. Ridiculous how Dean defends the law. I did my video on That's Football today about what Howard Webb said, Stig, and I think I've covered most of it there. I preferred Lindegaard than De Gea when they were both first at United, and look how De Gea came on. Onana will come good, says Mike. And Jaff, thank you very much for joining the members club. Appreciate that. Keane wanted a more commanding keeper in the box and could not overlook his regular mistakes, says Violet. Yes, I agree. I think Roy Keane had a problem with De Gea's goalkeeping ability. I don't think it was about his ability to pass out from the back. Roy Keane got De Gea out the club for the reason that Ten Hag didn't get De Gea out the club. He didn't want a ball-playing goalkeeper. He just didn't rate De Gea for whatever reason, I think. And he never did. He was always getting on at De Gea. You're the best, you know that. Love from India, says Partip. Thank you for the lovely message. And Jose says, I can see why we don't drop Onana, but many players need a rest. Word drop is always viewed as bad, and the media overreacts and freshens up the team, says Jose. Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes a player can be left out. But, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a glimpse into those stats, because I think it just gives you a bit of an idea that Manchester United really are not as terrible as some people might think. I mean, we're second in the league for passes into the final third to Manchester City. We're top of the league for progressive passes, ahead of Chelsea. We are fifth in the league for deep completions, and we are currently... there was something I wanted to... No, I did the key passes thing. So look, it's not all terrible in relation to United. And, I don't like going too deep on stats, but there are certain stats that I think are quite interesting. Crosses into the box, shots on target, and I like the intensity. I like the challenge intensity stat, and I like the PPDA, which is basically how many passes the opposition have before you win it on average. And I think the fact that Spurs are top of both of those and also top of the league, there's a direct correlation. Brighton are up there. United... you look at the top teams in relation to challenge intensity and ability to win the ball back quickly. Tottenham, Brighton. We know Man City and Arsenal can do it. United need to be in that. There's absolutely no reason why Man United are not in that conversation, and we do need to be in it. I can see why we don't drop Onana, but I've done that from Jose. Thank you very much. Even Eric questions himself. We are good, bad, so bad at the same time. Patience, guys. It's 3 a.m. Mark, Man United are rubbish. You're fooling yourself, says DRB. Well, no, what I'm trying to do there is, and yes, the section was called Stat Attack, so it's going to be about stats, and some people are interested in it and some people aren't. But what I was trying to say is that everybody just says we're shit. Everybody says we're a mid-table team. And one thing that I constantly struggle with is, what is our identity? I don't know what our identity is. I really don't know. So sometimes delving into things and saying, you know what, we're in the top four for putting crosses into the box this season. Well, that shows you that we're putting crosses into the box, which to me is quite subtle. I wouldn't have said we're a team that puts lots of crosses into the box this season, but actually we are compared to a lot of other teams in the Premier League. And I see that as a positive, because I want United to put crosses into the box. And Ten Hag has clearly done that. We were nearly bottom last season for crosses into the box, and this season we're in the top four. That's a complete and utter turnaround, and it's a conscious tactical turnaround. Is that because Rasmus is in the team now and he wants to provide service to him? But most of the crosses are coming from the right-hand side, probably because we don't have Luke Shaw on the left-hand side or a left-back on the left-hand side. I think that's quite an encouraging thing. What's not encouraging is the challenge intensity and the ability to win the ball back with a good press when the opposition have got the ball, which probably feeds into why we're conceding so many goals and why we're conceding goals after we score. Because we're not very good at winning the ball, and we need to be better at that. Really interesting stats, Mark. I've had the feeling all season we haven't been terrible, just really soft when we concede and cave in, a bit error prone. Exactly, Nick P. I don't think we've been completely rubbish, but our tackling and defensive and intensity, and that, remember, that's not defensive. I'm not talking about the centre-backs. I'm talking about the whole team. You defend from the front, especially in relation to challenge intensity and ability to win the ball back. That comes from the front. You've got to defend as a team from the front, and we're not doing it well. We're not doing it well at all. Many a time I've heard people say that the way that we press is crap. We don't press really effectively as a team, and obviously that's a massive problem for us this season. We've got to work on it. Is that because the team's knackered from last season? Is it because we've got a lot of change in the team? Is it because we've got new players in the team? I think it could be a combination of all. It really could. I want to get into the different sections, but there are a few things I wanted to just talk about. Obviously, I don't want to tread on the toes of Beth and Rob Dawson, who had the interview this afternoon. Really interesting. Check it out on the channel. I thought it was interesting what he said about Scott McTominay, that Scott McTominay is expected to stay at the club long term. He really doesn't want to leave the club. He loves the club, and Ten Hag is happy to keep him as a squad player unless a big offer comes in. I mean, it's perplexing as it's not surprising. I don't know. I don't know about that one. Personally, you can be in love with a club, but has he ever been good enough for the club in his whole career here? He's about to hit 27. I just think you look at people like Nicky Butt, Phil Neville, who hit the similar age and went and played for Newcastle and Everton because they wanted to play regularly first team football. You only get one career. I mean, I just think McTominay's stubborn, and I admire that. He wants to make it at Manchester United, but I can't see him ever making it in the first team. And as a bench player, would he always come on? I know he did against Brentford, but would he always come on? I think he should be looking to move. But if he can prove us wrong, he can prove us wrong. Obviously, this is probably a big opportunity for him now, having scored 2 goals at the weekend. But what really caught my eye this evening was a story that came out from, I think it was from Sami Mukbel in the Daily Mail. Good journalist, and he basically had this to say. Now, look, it's just more issues for Manchester United with regards to internal problems at the football club. I'm trying to find where it was. Manchester United beat Barnsley today, actually, in a 3-0 win behind closed doors. Anthony played. Kobe Mainoo didn't play. I think Donny van der Beek may well have played. I'm not sure whether Mason Mount played as well. But just if you're interested in that sort of stuff, I mean, really, those things need to be happening, don't they? Why can't I find this story now? I saw it earlier on. Effectively, what it was to do with people... somebody just said, what about the reports from Qatar? Mate, we've had basically there's some, I don't know, journalist or something, somebody from Qatar who's got 500,000 followers saying that Qatar buying Man United's really close. But I think it's the same person was saying the same thing in January, February, March and April. So, yeah, I don't really take a hell of a lot about it. Here it is. I found it now. Man United staff have actively sought alternative employment after growing disillusioned at the club following their handling of Mason Greenwood and Anthony's domestic abuse cases. That might not mean a lot to many of you, and I'm sure a lot of you go, oh, not again, this, that and the other. But to me, that means quite a lot, because it just, again, epitomises, we talk about why are we mid-table, we talk about wanting the Glazers to go and what that would mean to the restructure of the football club. These things are still really important, and you might not think it's important, but they are. There are people in that football club looking for alternative employment because they're fed up with how the club has been run. And this is why distraction techniques to focus on Ten Hag are quite irritating, because there is genuine frustration about what's going on at Manchester United, and not many people in the media want to talk about it, and I don't know why. Maybe they want to keep a cosy relationship with Manchester United. Maybe they think it's more, they're going to sell more papers by talking about Ten Hag. But actually, there's a hell of a lot going on at Man United. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on about Manchester United. There's some really good stories about Man United if a good journalist did their job properly instead of just living off handouts from the club. Like, if you actually did some investigative journalism, like Sami Mukbel has obviously done there are real issues inside that football club. And they're far more interesting to the Manchester United fans than nonsense about players turning against Ten Hag. I find that stuff far more interesting when there's genuine upheaval and dissatisfaction with how the club is being run and the morals of that football club. These are important issues, and it just, feeds into why the club is such a bloody mess. It's a badly run football club, and those things I think are really important, and I think they should be spoken about. certainly. There was something else I wanted to talk to you about as well. Completely forgotten what it was. Rob Dawson has said that Man United are ready to trigger contract extensions for Wan-Bissaka and Victor Lindelof, but bosses are taking their time before deciding what to do about Anthony Martial. United were ready to let Martial leave this summer, but the only realistic offer came from Saudi Arabia, and the player refused to enter into transfer talks. It's very important to remember that. It's very important to remember that. You know, when you were talking about... when we're talking about the game against Brentford, I found it really interesting that Christian Eriksen came on and did quite well. Garnacho came on and did quite well. And obviously, I think a lot of people had been saying Garnacho should have been starting games for about 3 weeks. Garnacho comes on against Brentford, massively involved as equalising. McTominay comes on, gets 2 goals. Maguire played the game after only playing 23 minutes before that, got an assist, played quite well. Martial came on and made a difference. So there's 3 or 4 players there that Erik ten Hag actively tried to get rid of. And, Martial was one of those players. So I'm not saying don't forget it. It's true. He was trying to get rid of some players. But it'd be interesting to see how that works, because I think Lindelof's only got 1 year left on his contract. Wan-Bissaka's only got 1 year left on his contract. Martial's only got 1 year left on his contract. I can see that situation going the same way as De Gea. I can see us extending Wan-Bissaka, extending Lindelof, letting Martial's run down, and then potentially just letting him go for free in the summer. I can see that happening now. I can see it coming now. I don't really see any other scenario, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? But I can't see any other scenario. I really can't, because he's on very good money again. He's on, well, he's meant to be on around 250 a year, a week, and his contract is up in summer 2024, next summer, and we have an option for a further year, like we did with David De Gea. Mark, are you worried that United still doesn't have a style of play despite it being Ollie's second year and after 400 million spent, says Jaff? I'm not even answering that, because you were quite rude about what you said as well. His name's Erik ten Hag. His name's not Bold Ollie. I mean, that's not even a question. It's just you're a knobhead, basically. Let's move on. Damn, we missed out big time on Basuma, says Raz. Yeah, we did. I like Basuma. Absolutely I really do. But yeah, going back to what I was saying there, I can see Martial just going for nothing next summer, because United seem to have this tactic, don't they? I mean, David De Gea, this doesn't get spoken about enough, right? This is a really good point, even though I'm going to make it. Ander Herrera walked out the club at 28 and went on a free to PSG. All we saved was wages. He was worth about 25 million. 20 to 25 million. Jesse Lingard walked out the club for free. A year before, we'd been offered 25 million by West Ham. That's 50 million quid just walked out the door through incompetence. People don't talk about this enough. They don't talk about it enough because they don't think it through. Herrera walked out for nothing because we let his contract run down. Idiots at 28, 25 million lost. Lingard let his contract run down. Turned down 25 million the year before. 50 million quid. David De Gea, he's only 32. As a goalkeeper, that's equivalent of being about 27 as an outfield player. 32, David De Gea, let his contract run down, got rid of him. Yes, he was on 350 grand a week, but he still had a value. However much that value was, he still had a value as a goalkeeper. Walked out the door for nothing. People can say, well, he's not playing for anyone at the moment as a free agent. He's turned down loads of people. He could be in Saudi Arabia. He's turned down loads of people. He just doesn't want some of the stuff he's been offered at the moment. And he's taking his time on it. He will be playing for somebody at some point. David De Gea won't retire. That's 3. Anthony Martial, about 28. Run his contract down, let him go for nothing. We lose a hell of a lot of players for next to nothing because we let contracts run down because we don't want to give them a new contract because they're on big wages. It's amazing how often we do it. It's terrible, terrible business. Terrible business. Really terrible business. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I know what I was going to say. I mean, ask me anything, throw me anything at me. I'll answer anything for you now. We're getting to that part of the show. But I know that was what I was going to talk about. Yes, somebody said to me, how do you deal with pressure and stress? And obviously, I'm fully aware that it's Mental Health Week this week. Or was it Mental Health Day yesterday? I think it's Mental Health Week. Look, I think it's always important to let people know that most mornings I wake up, as I've said before, I'm in a terrible mood. I don't know whether anybody wakes up in the morning and goes, yes, attack the day. Probably Gary Neville, I don't know. But I would argue maybe not. I think that's probably standard behaviour. I wake up most mornings and I'm just like, ugh. I'm not as bad that it's another day, but I've never woken up in the morning and gone, woo. I just don't. Is that mental health? Is it tiredness? Is it normal behaviour? I don't know. But I think everybody goes through some level of struggle. And the thing that I find as a coping mechanism is to be open and honest with people. I think for many years, I just didn't talk about it. And it's such a cliche because everybody says this, but it's not a cliche. It actually is the best cure, best medicine, not cure. It's just to be open about how you feel. I think that's really, really important. How do you deal with stress and frustration? Life's not fair. Frustration isn't worth focusing on. Life's not fair. Vent, call someone a prat, whatever. These are useful, but life's not fair. Frustration is a waste of time, although it impacts on us all. As for stress, I think when it comes to stress, why are you doing anything? Why did you go to school? Are you going to school because you have to? Are you going to school because you want to get qualifications and do something? I think I went to school because I thought I had to. I didn't actually use school for what I should have used school. And I wish I'd had people around me telling me what it was about because I never bloody understood and I didn't listen. Why do you go to work? Do you go to work because you enjoy it? Do you go to work because you need money? What do you do with that money? When you get stressed about everything you've got to do, is it going to be the end of your life if you don't do it? I just think sometimes we stress about things that don't really matter. That's why when after a match, I can say all sorts of stuff because I'm frustrated and stressed because, as much as we shouldn't focus on them, they hit us all. But then the next morning I'll talk about the game and go, you know what, I don't feel like I did after the match. Really at the end of the day, and I think that's important. I mean, my focus is on the good things in life, the good, and that's not cars or clothes, that's people. There's no point in doing anything if you're not doing it for something that's good. And, I do things like this. I've been doing this for nearly 10 years, most nights at 8 o'clock for 10 years. How do you do that? A lot of people say, how do you do that? Well, because 99% of the time when I click live and go live, I love speaking with you. I love it. I absolutely love it. I love the communication. I love the chat and I love football and I love Manchester United. And if people don't get that and think it's weird, well, that's fine. But some of us really do enjoy it. So I think it's about, I think dealing with stress, you're always going to get stress, but I think it's about compartmentalising what that stress is. Is it stressful supporting Manchester United? Yes, because you care. But what a great thing it is to care about something that much. That's the way I deal with it. I'm like, look, I find it really stressful how Man United have been run into the ground. I find it really unacceptable that we went from being an amazing football club to a bad football club. And people will say, well, it swings and roundabouts and it cycles. And I accept that. But I don't have to accept that it's our time to be bad. It's the way it goes because it's been self-inflicted. Most people will break a bone in their body throughout their life. But if you throw yourself down the stairs and break your leg, you didn't need to do it like that. You could have fell off the train and done it by accident. And United have purposely, through the ownership, damaged the club, and that's not acceptable. But I always do think, well, you know what? As disappointing as it is that United aren't very good, and as stressful as it can be when you think about the sale, I'm also go, but how fortunate am I to support this football club? I'll always be grateful for my granddad for introducing me to the story of Manchester United, to Duncan Edwards, the Busby Babes, George Best. The story of Manchester United is just, I don't think there's a better story. And to have had a family member that was obsessed with them and teach me about football and them, I feel blessed. What if he'd said, let's go and watch Notts County? you know, that would be my team now. What if he was passionate about Notts County? So I'm blessed to support Manchester United as well. It is stressful, but the positives outweigh the negatives. And one day I think we'll rise again. I personally think the gym, physical activity is great stress relief. Having a good group of friends too. Also the United Stand community, says Sumi. I think exercise is really important, yeah. I really do. Aston says, I know you don't know these people, but can you give Ben and Totty a shout out? They're my granddad and uncle, and they love your streams. Thank you. Thank you very much, Aston. I think you were on the stream earlier, weren't you? The thing I find about exercise is that after I've done it, it really has a positive impact on your mental attitude, but it has a real negative impact on me thinking about doing it. I have to work through the barrier. I find every exercise boring. Running destroys me mentally. I can do running. I've always been good at running. I just hate mentally. I can't deal with it. I think I've run for half an hour and I'll find I've run for like 2 minutes. I hate running. I'm good at it, but I hate it. Swimming is hard work. You know, if I could play five-a-side for an hour every day, I'd get all my calories and I'd do something I'll never stop doing. I need a five-a-side team, local five-a-side team that I can just go and play every day. That would be perfect for me. Absolutely perfect. I like exercise, I enjoy. Stress is human nature. We all go through it, like riding my bike. Stress reliever, says Daniel. Yes, it is. ISO loves running and swimming. If great, mate. I'm jealous. I'm just jealous of that. Just absolutely jealous. Darts is a good exercise. I don't think it really is. I suppose you do a bit of walking, don't you? Were you doing the United Stand when we got Moyes? No. My first season was Van Gaal's first season, I think. Yeah, I think I started the season Van Gaal started, which is 2 years. 10 years next year, I think it is. Must be 10 years next year. I can't believe it. I really can't believe it. Incredible. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for tuning in tonight. You've been absolutely fantastic. Of course, we're back tomorrow. I've got a fantastic video going up on That's Football tomorrow. It's another football challenge. I did the one with Angry Ginge last international break. I got one tomorrow. Some bangers in there. Some absolute bangers in there. I'm looking forward to it. Check out That's Football tomorrow. But thanks for all your support tonight, as ever. Really enjoyed it, and I hope you did as well. Really enjoying the 8 o'clock shows this week, if I'm being completely honest. And yeah, I hope you're doing well. And let's hope that we get some news soon on the sale, but I wouldn't believe it. Boohoo Man, 40% off with the code Goldbridge. You can't go wrong with their hoodies. They're brilliant for the autumn, by the way. And with 40% off, what's not to like? The code's Goldbridge. Check it out. Scan the QR code with your camera phone or go through the link in the description. And secondly, live chat, video description, links for our Manchester Christmas show. Been working a little bit on it today. It's going to be so much fun. It's going to be our best live show yet. And there's loads of... We want a bit of a Christmas party atmosphere as well as making it a United Stand show. So many people are going to be involved, and we're going to get a lot of crowd activity as well. So yeah, get your tickets while you can. Links in the live chat and in the video description. We're looking forward to seeing you there. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. And you can also check out the interview with Rob Dawson that Beth did earlier, which was very good. Speak to you in a bit.